Level up your English listening. The untold life story of Melania Trump. Welcome back to our channel, where you can level up your English listening while learning about real lives and hidden stories from America. Today's story is about a woman who moved from a small European town to the most famous house in the world, the White House. A woman who lived quietly but became one of the most photographed and talked about people in modern history. This is the real story of Melania Trump, the woman the world saw but few truly understood. Melania was born as Melania Trump on April 26, 1970, in a small industrial town called Novo Mesto in what was then Yugoslavia, now Slovenia. Her father, Victor, was a car salesman, confident and strong. Her mother, Amalia, worked in a textile factory where she designed patterns for children's clothes. They were not rich, but they lived comfortably. From a young age, Melania was quiet, disciplined, and very focused. She loved drawing, dressing up dolls, and dreaming of bigger things. People from her hometown still remember her as polite, tall, and always stylish. When she was 16, a photographer noticed her and invited her for a local photo shoot. That was the moment everything changed. Melania's photos quickly gained attention. After high school, she studied design and architecture in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. But soon, she decided to follow her heart and move abroad to become a model. She worked in Milan and Paris, living a life that looked glamorous but was actually very hard. Many days she stood in long lines for casting calls, waiting hours for a chance that might last only 5 minutes. But she didn't give up. She learned English, Italian, and a bit of French and kept pushing forward. In 1996, at just 26 years old, she made her biggest move to New York City. She said later that she arrived with one suitcase, a few $100s, and a lot of determination. In New York, Melania worked for fashion photographers and appeared in magazines like Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. She was known for her classic look, elegant, calm, and professional. Unlike other models who loved the party scene, Melania lived quietly. She didn't smoke or drink much, and she preferred staying home to read or sketch. One night in 1998, her life took another turn. She attended a fashion party during New York Fashion Week. At that party, she met a famous businessman, Donald Trump. He was already well known for his real estate empire and his bold personality. Melania was 28. Donald was 52. He asked for her number. She said no, at least not right away. She later said, "I didn't want to be just one of his girls. If he wanted to know me, he would have to work for it." And he did. They started dating. At first, people didn't think their relationship would last. They were so different. But Melania's calm and elegant nature balanced Donald's loud, confident style. After years of dating, Donald proposed to her with a 15-carat diamond ring. They married in January 2005 at his Palm Beach estate, Mar-a-Lago. The wedding was full of celebrities, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. A year later, in March 2006, Melania gave birth to their son, Barron Trump. She became an American citizen that same year through naturalization, the process of becoming a U.S. citizen after immigration. When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, Melania mostly stayed quiet. She rarely appeared in public during the campaign. But when he won and became the 45th president of the United States, she stepped into one of the most public roles in the world, First Lady of the United States. On January 20th, 2017, Melania officially became the First Lady born outside the U.S. in almost 2 centuries, and the first who was a naturalized American citizen. Her soft accent, private nature, and mysterious presence made people curious. Some admired her elegance. Others criticized her silence. As First Lady, Melania focused on one major initiative, Be Best. It aimed to help children live better, safer lives by promoting kindness, mental health, and protection against cyberbullying. She visited hospitals, schools, and children's centers. Her message was simple but meaningful. Be kind online. Be kind in real life. Be best. But her time in the White House was not always peaceful. The media often compared her to other first ladies. She was criticized for her fashion choices, like the time she wore a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?" on a trip to a migrant center. Melania later explained that it was meant as a message to the media, not the children. But by then, the photo had gone viral. She was also the subject of rumors about her health, her marriage, and her private life. Still, she rarely responded publicly. She once said, "I know who I am, and I don't need to explain myself to anyone." Many people wonder what Melania is really like behind the cameras. Here are some lesser-known facts about her life. She speaks 5 languages: Slovene, English, German, French, and Italian. She's a perfectionist. Former assistants said she checks every photo of herself before it's published. She's very protective of Barron, her son. She even delayed moving to the White House after the election so he could finish his school year in New York. She has a strong influence on her husband. Insiders say Donald Trump often called her for advice before big decisions. And despite criticism, she stayed loyal. She believed her role was to support, not compete. Melania once said in an interview, "I don't always agree with everything my husband says, but I speak to him privately." That one sentence showed her personality: calm, careful, and always in control of her image. In 2018, Melania had a kidney procedure that kept her out of the public eye for several weeks. The media started speculating, and some even joked that she had disappeared. When she returned, she said only, "I'm here at the White House with my family, and I'm feeling great." She preferred actions over words. While other first ladies gave long speeches, Melania's approach was quiet and minimal. She believed in doing, not talking. Even though her approval ratings were lower than some before her, many people admired her strength. They saw her as elegant, private, and loyal, someone who didn't need attention to have power. When Donald Trump left the presidency in January 2021, Melania returned to a quiet life in Palm Beach, Florida. She rarely gave interviews and focused on her family and her son Barron's education. In 2025, with Donald Trump's return to the White House, Melania again became First Lady, but still on her own terms. She announced she would continue supporting children's causes, especially mental health and education, through an updated Be Best initiative. Some insiders say she is now more confident, more experienced, and more selective about public appearances. Melania Trump's story is not one of loud speeches or endless attention. It's a story about quiet strength, a woman who crossed continents, changed languages, and adapted to one of the most difficult public roles in the world. She once said, "You can be strong and silent at the same time." That might be the best description of her life. From a small apartment in Slovenia to the White House in Washington, D.C., Melania's journey shows that success is not only about fame or noise. Sometimes it's about patience, discipline, and self-control. For English learners, her story teaches words like elegance, determination, loyalty, privacy, and resilience. But more than vocabulary, it teaches a life lesson. You don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes grace speaks louder than words. And that was the real-life story of Melania Trump, her rise from a small-town girl to the First Lady of the United States.